I know. Everybody's bleary-eyed because you stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, good afternoon to you, Evan and Tiki. Welcome to your post-Election Day Wednesday here on The Fan. I will say that I know that 35% of this country thinks this is the greatest day in the history of the world. 35% of the country thinks this is the worst day in the history of the world. And the other, 30%, I think my math is wrong, are just like, thank God it's over. But let's hope for the best as Americans. Yes. We had an election, we have a winner, and now we're done with political ads, and let's all hope we rally together and have a nice run.
Congratulations to, again, President Trump. Whether you love it, it's 4 years. Whether you hate it, it's 4 years.
That's a good way to look at it.
That's how you have to look at it.
And you know what? I know many of you are going to roll your eyes, but this is a good time to Google Grover Cleveland. Well, it's also a time where you try to look at why you thought something and you turned out to be so wrong. It's a very reflective day, the day after elections. You're very reflective on, I thought this for months and I turned out to be so wrong. So, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we do that about the New York Football Giants? Because all of us on this show, I'm not saying everybody listening. Obviously, everybody listening may have very various opinions on this subject. I thought the New York Football Giants were going to be average. I thought they were going to be an 8-win team and be in the hunt come December. That was my official prediction on the New York Giants.
They could still do that.
They could still do it, but it seems unlikely. It's
they haven't started like that.
It's like 8:30 last night. She can still win, but it's unlikely, right? And I think that's where the Giants are. They're not going to be in the hunt. And I raise my hand and say, I was wrong. Your official prediction was kind of where I was, a little bit better. You thought 9 wins.
Yep.
You were wrong. Sean Morass was probably closest to it. You said they're going to be a 7-win team. You're likely to be wrong. And then you've got Tommy Lugauer. Tommy thought they would be an 11-win team.
With the caveat that Tommy DeVito would be the starting quarterback for week 1. So there's a loophole. There's a little loophole.
In fact, I think, Sean, do we have the audio of Tommy Lugauer officially predicting 11 wins?
We have all our audio.
Oh, we have all our audio.
Somebody was very close to Tommy on the show, too.
Really? Let's take a listen to Tommy Lugauer's Giant prediction from just a few months ago.
Positive Tommy's predicting 11 wins. 11 wins for the Giants.
Wow.
By the way, I hear no caveat about Tommy DeVito.
Well, they cut that part out. They edited it to make me look bad, clearly.
In all seriousness, why were we wrong? What has happened to this football team where they're getting set to go to Germany? They're 2-7. The results stink, to quote Brian Daboll. The Giants stink. I think all of us have come to that conclusion. And this is kind of what the Democrats are going to do over the next few months. You figure out, okay, well, why did we lose? What went wrong? So, Tiki Barber, why were we also wrong about the New York Giants?
Well, I think it starts with the first game of the season. And we all saw it against the Minnesota Vikings where they got the doors blown off of them. But part of that is because the Minnesota Vikings are actually a pretty decent football team.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're world beaters. And they're not the best team in the division. And probably might be the third best team in the division when it's all said and done.
Good division.
How the Packers end up playing themselves out. But the Minnesota Vikings were really good, and it was a hard restart for Daniel Jones. Coming off an ACL injury, the first thing you want is kind of just a stabilizing game. Just don't look terrible. Don't get beat up. Don't get beat so bad that we lose all kinds of faith. And that's exactly what happened. That's why I preached patience after that week 1, if you remember. Give me through the first quarter.
Right.
Let's see what happens. And so they started to play better. But I think the reality of this Giants team and why we were all so wrong is because while they fixed the offensive line and they got better defensively, or talent-wise at least, it's hard to win in the NFL. And the Giants have played a lot of close games, and they don't know how to win yet, right? And so they did it in year 1. Part of that was probably just the uplifting ability of a new head coach who preached accountability. He preached, earning your spot. And so guys played with a different kind of, urgency. And also they were better, right? They had Saquon, they had Julian Love and Xavier McKinney. They were just a better team all the way around. I think this team we overestimated the growth of some of the players on this team.
Yeah, to me, they just don't have enough talent.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bad look for Joe Shane, which is why if I'm identifying the one person to blame, I would start with the general manager because he's been here for 3 years. And there have been some really good things. There have been some things that you love and you defend and you say, I like that move.
Right.
That was a master class in contract negotiations. But at the end of the day, when you've had 3 NFL drafts, and Joe Schoen has had 3 NFL drafts, and you've had time to fix the cap issues that you inherited, right? You inherited a bad situation.
Yep.
And I always say this about presidents. It's only fitting. You can only blame the former president for so long. Eventually, it's your problem. Go fix it. Joe Schoen inherited, sure, not the greatest situation in the world. But he's had 3 drafts. He's had multiple off seasons. And while I'm not saying he should be fired today, I'm saying that the reason I was wrong, the reason why they have the record that they have right now, is that I just don't think they're very good. I think the drafts have been mediocre for the most part. The talent has gone backwards, some of which is losing guys in free agency.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing they should have kept Saquon Barkley, but they got worse. I'm not arguing they should have kept Xavier McKinney, but they got worse. So overall, and I know when people chime in on this, when Tommy chimes in, Sean, everybody, callers at 888-808-1019, there'll be a lot of Brian Daboll. There'll be a lot of Daniel Jones. There'll be a lot of that. To me, it's an overall thing. Like, they're not that good. And I admit, I raised my hand. I was wrong about it because I thought the talent on this roster defensively, I thought the talent on this roster offensively was better than this. I did not think they would be sitting here with the record that they're sitting with. They're 2-7. And I look at the talent and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of who they are. And to me, that's on the architect,
Yes.
not our architect, the architect of the New York Football Giants, Joe Schoen.
Yeah, and again, this is the same conversation we had at the end of last year. Think about when we revisit the end of 2023. What do we keep saying? Oh, there were some games that the Giants could have won.
Right.
Or they were in them one-score games, field goal games, 2-point, whatever. There were games Giants could have won. Think about the start. Again, Minnesota notwithstanding, because Minnesota was much better than anybody thought they were. But think about the Commanders game.
Could have won that game if they had a kicker.
Should have won that game. You just need a kicker. Think about the Cowboys. You won against Cleveland. Think about the Cowboys game. The Cowboys game, you lost by 5. And it wasn't as if they were overmatched, finally, for the first time against the Cowboys. They did win in Seattle, then Cincinnati. It's the same thing, right? It's just little moments in these games where they don't quite know how to win. And against the better teams, look, they're going to get sometimes beat up.
Like we saw in Philadelphia.
It's what happened in Philadelphia.
Home against Philadelphia.
It's what happened against Minnesota, right? And the Commanders, the second time, last week, I mean, they could have won that game as well.
Yeah.
So it's a whole bunch of, well, we could have if we would have done X. And I've been saying this since early in this season. There's just not enough players, both sides of the ball, who, when they get their moment to shine and be the man, they're becoming the man.
Yeah.
Just not. I mean, Tyrone Tracy is, but you can't do it with the run game alone. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL anymore.
This draft, this current one that Joe Schoen had, looks like it could be pretty good. I mean, Malik Neighbors is a star already. I think with better quarterback play, that will only be elevated. I like what I've seen from Drew Phillips for the most part. And you talk about Tyrone Tracy as a 5th-round pick. Theo Johnson needs to cut down on the drop. So this class doesn't look bad. But then you look at the previous year, and for some reason, Deontay Banks has gone backwards.
Yep.
Jalen Hyatt, a 3rd-round pick, I mean, he's a waste. Yeah. Let's be honest.
He doesn't see the field.
He doesn't see the field. He doesn't get out there. And then you look at the first draft. I was never a proponent of Kayvon Thibodeau as a bust. I don't think he's a bust.
Thibodeau.
But he's what did I say?
Thibodeau.
Oh, jeez. I hate you, Tom Thibodeau. This is all your fault. You've created confusion. But as we sit here, year 3 at Kayvon Thibodeau, what is he? Thibodeau. You just told me 30 seconds ago, and I can't remember.
Thibodeau.
You know what? Till he gets back on the field, I'm just calling him Kayvon. But what is he right now? Like, he's not a boss, but he's not a star. He's not a guy. He was picked 5th overall.
He was ascending before this injury, big time.
I agree. He was ascending at times, but, I mean, what is he now? Evan Neal is one of the worst first-round picks you'll ever see. Josh Azudu is blah. I mean, it's just, I think the talent acquisition part of the job has been very blah. Doesn't mean he's bad. It's not an F-.
Yeah.
But it's blah, and it's not good enough. And I think that's a big part of why we're sitting here at 2-7 trying to figure out why they suck.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I think there's 2 main reasons why they're 2-7.
Go ahead.
I think, and I think both are related to the general manager, who, by the way, I still like. I don't dislike Joe Schoen, but number 1, and this goes back to Tyrod Taylor walking out the door, or not having Tommy DeVito as the number 2. They didn't do a good enough job of competition behind Daniel Jones, because when you look at the first 6 games of this season, the Minnesota Viking game, the Commander game, the Cowboy game, and then the Bengal game. Their quarterback play was not up to snuff to make enough plays in those games to win. And what did they have to turn to? So when Drew Lock finally came in, they didn't have enough there when they already knew the quarterback was an issue. The other problem, and you alluded to, and they're still paying the price for using a first and a third round pick in Joe Shane's draft on Evan Neal and Josh Azudu. Last year when Andrew Thomas got hurt, the entire season crumbled. To not have at least a playable plan in case he got hurt again. The last 3 weeks, I feel like, have been a direct result of Andrew Thomas not playing because what did we say the first couple weeks? Well, they're not scoring points, but the offense is moving. The offensive line is not a problem. The offensive line has gone backwards since losing a guy that you lost last year, and they had no answer in depth for that.
Right, it's depth. It's a depth issue, and that's how you build good teams. Is when you lose a starter, you have a competent backup,
which they didn't have when Thomas went down, like you said.
That's right. It's been that way forever, and so part of it is roster construction. But again, I'll go back and I'll say this every time because I played it and I call them now. It's hard to win in the NFL. It's just really hard unless you have a difference maker. I look at have the Bills this weekend. I look at the Bills on tape. They're kind of very average. Average offense, average defense. They're exceptional at certain things, but most importantly, where are they exceptional? Quarterback.
Yeah. Right? They have a difference maker.
They
have a pretty important
difference
position.
maker at quarterback. You go look at the Kansas City Chiefs, who are undefeated at this point.
Yeah.
Are they blowing the doors off everybody? Are they beating everybody at 20 points? No. They win one-score games. Why? Because they have an exceptional quarterback. Like, if you're an average team and you have average talent, which the Giants do, and some of them are great. Like, Dex is great. I think Tyrone Tracy could be a really good player. Malik Neighbors could be a star, right? They have some really exceptional players, but by and large and mass, they're just average. And so the only way to get an average team to win close games, which almost every game in the NFL is, by the way, they're always close, is you have to have someone exceptional at quarterback. And the Giants don't have that. Now, this isn't a let's blame Daniel Jones because you get tired of just blaming Daniel Jones all the time. But if we're going to sit and evaluate why the Giants are where they are and why they've lost some of these close games, the first thing you got to look at is a quarterback who can't throw touchdowns at home until last week, obviously, right? Who can't win and make that play in the moment that wins you a game. And so it's hard to look at this team and feel optimistic, even though you try your hardest to look at the future and say, man, it's just you're almost there. Because they are almost there, but they're not even close.
Are they a
Does that
quarterback?
make sense?
Yeah, but are they a quarterback away?
No, nobody is any player away. I will never hear that you're a quarterback away. Well, because if you.
But isn't that what you're kind of saying, though?
No, because they need a quarterback who is a lifter. And Daniel Jones works his ass off. He's a leader. I'm not maligning him in any way at all. But when it comes to production, there's always something that sets the team back. And whether it's a stupid screen pass that he can't get out of his hand fast enough and turns into a fumble and gets put in Commander's territory and they score a touchdown 3 plays later, it's like little things like that.
Right.
Right, great players that doesn't happen to. Right. There's an awareness. There's a football IQ that's above the X's and O's that not enough players have on this team. And if you don't, it's really hard to win.
Well, and that's where I know people are sick of blaming Daniel Jones. I'll blame Daniel Jones, but above Daniel Jones is the fact that he's still the quarterback of this team. This administration inherited a roster 3 years ago. And while they've made a lot of changes and they've brought in new talent and the cap space looks different, the constant's been the quarterback.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying it's Daniel Jones's fault, which is valid, I say it's the GM's fault for continuing to employ the quarterback as the starting quarterback. And I get it. Well, what else could they have done over the last 3 years? And it's a fair argument. I didn't like any of the quarterbacks in this draft. I get all that. But ultimately, when you look for the blame on why this team is 2-7, it comes down to decisions this general manager's made, which to me starts and ends with the fact that Daniel Jones is still the quarterback. So it's not even blaming Daniel Jones anymore. We all know he's average, and I think that was your description. Yeah, if they had more talent, if they had the talent of the healthy Niners team, Daniel Jones could be fine and suitable, and they could go on a run. But they don't have that.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that, you need better quarterback play. With that said, there's a segment of the audience that says, guys, you're leaving out the reason that they suck. You're leaving out the guy that they want to blame. But guess what? We're a show that looks out for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's your third-party voice RFK Jr., Tommy Lugauer.
Thank you, Evan. I appreciate that. The head coach has 2 wins, and I'm sorry, when you're close in these games, you don't get a trophy for, we tried, we kept it close. The head coach has 2 wins. I'm sorry. There have been several winnable games this season. So I put the blame on his doorstep for not doing the best that has been given to him. Not everybody has Josh Allen. Not everybody has Patrick Mahomes. Not everybody has Lamar Jackson. But you find a way to win with the guys that you have in this locker room. And he has not done that this year. They have 2 wins on the season. They are bottom feeders.
You know what I wonder about? If Brian Daboll was the guy from 2 years ago who won Coach of the Year, and he was getting the most out of the talent that you described, what would they still even be? Like, that's what I wonder about. I know that the margin for error is so small in the NFL. Like, one thing goes different, you can win and lose. But I look at the talent, and I still think, like, yeah, you're right. They could win a game or 2 here and there and maybe overachieve a little bit.
Right.
But they're not good.
Yeah, they'd be 4-5 or 3-6. Or I think they would have won a couple of those games.
Fine. They still wouldn't be good.
Well, again, that comes to quarterback. I think, though, to back Tommy's point, a breaking quote has just come out during our open.
Go ahead.
From Wink Martindale.
Wink?
Oh, jeez.
Wink Martindale at his Michigan presser was asked if he could see himself coaching in college for the long haul. "I'm glad I'm here," he said. "I love the players we have. It's a lot better than being in some places that are 2-7.
Wow.
Wow.
I admire that.
Wow.
That's a guy saying, you know what?
That's
Screw
a
it.
troll job.
It's
Par excellence.
He is on a team with 4 losses in college and won a national championship last year.
That's true.
Also, in fairness to Wink Martindale, can I just give you just a couple facts? Just a fact here and there. Mm-hmm. Last year, the New York Football Giants went 6-11 with the 26th ranked defense in the NFL. This year, they have the 15th ranked defense in the NFL.
And they're leading the league in sacks.
And they're leading the league in sacks. Like, the Giants are 2-7 because you know where they rank offensively? 32nd.
Dead ass last.
Dead ass last. So I appreciate Wink Martindale spiking the football on the Giants because he's a bitter man. And when you're bitter, that's what you do. I mean, that's what happens. But let's not get it twisted, Wink. You could argue Shane Bowen's done a pretty damn good job.
Right.
Can I just get back to the head coach for a second here? I hold him personally responsible for the first loss against the Commanders. Why 2 years in a row, when they have an entire offseason to get prepared for Week 1, they got blown out both times in Week 1, including this year, which was a homecoming game. John Mara basically had his entire family here and all the great legends that played for the team, and they got their ass kicked twice. So what did you do all offseason that you got embarrassed? They should have beat the Cowboys. They accused them of tanking in the game. You want to go more down the list here? The Bengals game was close. Why didn't they win that game? Even this past Sunday, they didn't win. The Steelers' 2-point conversion.
But you know what a part of that
That's
is?
a lot of games I just pointed to.
It's all fair, and it's what Tiki was saying about how close they've been to winning.
Yeah.
But I think it goes back to Tiki's answer of they don't have those game-changing players to be the difference in winning those games. And it starts with the quarterback, who they've decided to run out for a 3rd straight year. And they're still running him out there.
Also, where are the Tiki Barbers? Where are the Antro Rolls? Where are the Michael Strahans? Where are the Plexico Burrises? Where are the leaders that we all grew up watching with this team? Where are they? Dexter Lawrence? Who is the guy that steps up in the locker room and says, this is crap?
Tiki, it's a fair question. Do you think this room kind of lacks leadership? Is that another part of why they don't win?
Because I think Dex is a really good leader, obviously, and he's doing it by example. I know he talks as well, so Dex is definitely a leader. The challenge, though, is that you can have these vocal leaders, but they also need to perform, right? Meaning the leader, right? If you're going to be a vocal leader, then you better give it to them every single day. Then every Sunday, your team better count on you, and you better deliver every single day. And that's why when I talk about, say, from the offensive side with Daniel Jones, I know he's leading this team. I know he's not a bad leader, but he's not producing, right? You're not watching him saying, I know he's making this play. You're saying, God, I hope he makes it.
Right. That's very different.
And that becomes very difficult to stomach when he doesn't make the play or he makes a negative play and it causes you to lose. And so even though he's your leader, it's like, but dude, man, come on.
There were some Giant fans who expected this. There were some Giant fans who had greater hope. I thought they'd be better. Why are they 2-7? A little autopsy on the Giants. We'll get to your calls coming up at 888-808-1019. Plus, for the first time ever, we look forward to it. It's a Boris-off right here on WFAN. You've all heard the stories of Scott Boris's dad jokes concerning MLB free agents. Well, tonight, Scott Boris gets put to the test. How does his dad jokes on his free agents, how good are they against Sean Morash's dad jokes on Boris's free agents? We'll get to that coming up in the 3 o'clock hour.